this moment, face into the wind. Northern places we may meet again.
People always told us, you are the next generation, you have to do something. But it's false. We are the generation of today, so we have to do something now. The fact that every year, every committee, every conferences I am meeting a lot of people that they really want to fight to do something better. It makes me feel that I'm not alone. With other people we can do something.
That's Justin Sargenti. He's an alumni from the Students on Ice 2015 Arctic Expedition. Justin is now a PhD student in architecture at the Institut National des Sciences Appliquées in Strasbourg, France. Inspired by his 2015 SOI expedition, he chose to specialize in the study of architecture in hostile and polar environments. And this has included travel to Antarctica to research how to improve research stations operating there. I'm really thrilled to have Justin as our guest today on Greatest Classroom on Earth. Hi, I'm Geoff Green, the founder and expedition leader of Students on Ice. In 1999, an idea was born. Imagine if we could bring youth at the beginning of their lives on educational expeditions to the polar regions, two cornerstones of the global ecosystem and windows to the world, and how that inspiring experience might shape their perspectives and even their futures.
Good morning, Students on Ice. It's going to be a great day.
In December of 2000, we made our maiden ship voyage, bringing a group of youth on a journey to Antarctica. An incredible journey of discovery, connection, and learning in what we would later call the greatest classroom on Earth. It's hard to believe, but Students on Ice is now in its 25th year. Since that first expedition, we've taken more than 4,000 students to the Arctic and the Antarctic, together with teams of educators, elders, artists, researchers, and leaders from over 55 countries. Our mission to connect youth to nature, culture, environmental leadership and stewardship, and even to themselves has remained steady in this changing world. We now have a global network of incredible alumni doing incredible things. This podcast is part of a year-long celebration of Students on Ice, a chance to reflect on the experiences, the connections, and impacts through conversations with the people who were there, getting their stories in their own words. I'm very happy to be joined now by Justin Sargenti. We have kept in touch over the last decade, and we recently reconnected at a Students on Ice event at the Princess Grace Theatre in Monaco, hosted by Prince Albert of Monaco, a long-time supporter of Students on Ice. Justin was one of the speakers that day, sharing his Students on Ice experience, as well as the research work that he's presently doing with the hundreds of students in the audience. I was so impressed with him, as I usually am, and I asked him if he'd like to do a podcast interview right after the event wrapped up. And he said yes. What do we say, Students on Ice? Flexibility is the key?
Yeah, true.
As we weren't expecting to do this, were we, Justin? But
Yeah.
It's great to have you joining us today on the Greatest Classroom on Earth podcast.
Thanks.
Welcome. And we are here in your hometown. Is that right? In Monaco?
Yes, of course.
We're actually sitting in the private suite of Prince Albert in the Princess Grace Theatre, named after Prince Albert's mom. So it's pretty cool to be sitting here together.
It's a wonderful place.
It's a long way from where we first met. And tell us a little bit about your Students on Ice experience. Tell me about what your expedition, how did you, first of all, get to go on Students on Ice?
It was unexpected. I was doing my school in Monaco, and every year the Foundation of Prince Albert II proposed to the students a competition. I can tell that. And I decided to participate to the photography contest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how old were you at the time?
I was 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And how old are you today?
I'm 26.
Okay. We grow up, don't we?
Yeah, a little
quickly.
bit.
And you were one of the people to be selected from that.
I was selected for the contest. And so the big news was that I just had a place for the Students on Ice expedition for the 15th anniversary.
Okay.
And I was like, my God, I will just leave the city. I never went abroad except in Europe, in Italy, or in Germany, but I didn't went that far away. So for me, it was a very new experience.
And what was the route that you took? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember everything. Yeah, so we went to Ottawa, and then we took the plane, and we arrived at Kongerlussuaq.
Yes, in Greenland.
Yeah, in Greenland. And we took the boat there. It was the Ocean Endeavour.
It was the Ocean Endeavour. That's right. And away we went. I remember that expedition quite well.
Yeah, we did all the west coast of the Greenland for the first week. And then we took the boat for the north of Nunavut.
Okay.
So we did the iceberg factory.
Yes.
Wonderful place.
Umanak.
And I think Umanak was the most beautiful place I ever see. And then we took the boat
on Baffin Island.
To Baffin Island. We came to see Devon Island.
Yes.
And then, I don't know the name of the airport, Resolute Bay. So we did the Northwest Passage.
Part of it, yes.
Yeah, a part of it. It was extraordinary. There were a lot of students at this time.
The Ocean Endeavour was one of the largest ships that we had, and now we're using the Polar Prince, which is quite a bit smaller. We actually, the reason we're here at the Princess Grace Theatre is because we just launched the contest for 2025 expedition. So the two youth that Prince Albert supported gave a lovely presentation, which probably brought back some memories for you.
Oh, so much memories. It's, I don't know, when I think about this expedition, it's always a lot of emotions for me. Like, it's part of my life, but it touched me a lot, and it changed everything for me. So when I think about this trip, I'm like, it's something that changed my life for forever. And I would love to live that again, but I will never live something like that.
You are still living it, aren't you? Because
a little bit, but for the social part, I think. So much people on this boat, so much life, so much different people, a lot of nations. It was amazing to just discover that you are not the only one who can be passionate about this kind of landscape to discover the story of the Inuit, of the Nunavut and the First Nation. I didn't know about that. I remember a lot about the Mary Simon testimony.
Okay.
You know?
Mary Simon, who's
Mary
now
Simon.
the Governor General of Canada.
Yeah,
what did she?
Crazy.
What stands out? What do you remember about what she?
That she talked to us about the future of the First Nation and how the First Nation was separate from their culture and from the village and the Inuit, all the Inuit.
Some of the traditional.
Yeah, traditional culture is about to be erased. It was something like that. They were afraid. They were not part of their own family. So it touched me a lot. I was like, wow, I didn't know about that.
Mary's been and still is an incredible champion, spokesperson, leader for Inuit, but now really for all of Canada. But I'm glad that you were part of that journey with Mary, because she's one of my favorite people, and I'm hoping she'll actually join us for one of these podcasts.
That's
so I'll say hi
great.
from her to you, and vice versa. Now, we often talk about part of the magic of Students on Ice is connecting youth, global youth, so that together they can address these global issues that we're facing. And I think we could easily say that that's more important now than ever with the way things are going in the world. That personal human connection, isn't it? The friendships that are formed. How has that played a role for you and what you've been doing? And I want to get to, because you're doing some pretty amazing things right now.
Yeah, thanks. I can tell that when I came back from this expedition, I just wanted to... I didn't know my place in the world after this expedition. I thought that I was so little person. I didn't expected to work in this place after. And for me, I was lost after this expedition. Everything has changed for me. I didn't know about the effect of the global. I knew about the effect, but I didn't know that it was so much strong in the Arctic. So when I came back, I decided to that this kind of mentality to protect the environment, to protect the poles, would be a part of me. And when I had the chance to do something, I took it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's wow. And today, as we sit here in 2025, we read in the headlines yesterday that the temperature at the North Pole was 20 degrees above normal and above the freezing point. This is alarming, to say the least. And really, yeah, it was something we were worried about 15 years ago, 10 years ago. But now, I'm still processing that news from yesterday.
Yeah, me too.
But I guess where I take hope is when I see people like you doing what you're doing, because we need to have hope, that's for sure. And there's a lot of it out there. There's incredible people doing incredible things. So you came back, and what did you do, like, to get to where you are today? But what were those first steps you took?
It was a long trip. I wanted, before the expedition, I wanted to be an architect.
Okay.
And I wanted to be specialized in wood construction.
Oh, wow.
So I decided to do my studies in the architecture school of Strasbourg in France. And because there was this specialty for the wood and the environmental courses, lessons in this school. But after 3 years in this school, they told me that you have the opportunity to choose your subject, to do some research for architecture. And I decided, I don't know why, because of, I think, this expedition and because of all these things that I had in my head about the mentality of protecting the environment, I decided to work on the polar station and to study the polar station.
In Antarctica.
In Antarctica, yeah. First of all, it was Antarctica and Arctic, because there is some polar station in Arctic.
Yeah, for sure.
And my question was the notion of comfort in this station. But it's very, very interesting, because when you talk about comfort, there is always a limit of comfort. And it's always something that you have to be more adaptive for this kind of environment. So when you talk about comfort, there is the question of, is everybody can go there? Is there a place for everybody? Or do we have to protect this place more? Do we have to build again some more polar station or not? The impact of the human path in the Antarctic is very big. I didn't
Absolutely.
know about that. So when I study this polar station for the architecture,
This was the Dumont d'Urville station?
the first one was the ALE6 station, from the Britain Antarctic Survey.
Okay, from the British
So it's
Antarctic Survey.
the station can move. It's a little station, and the localization is on an ice shelf, so they have to move the station.
Amazing.
Because it will end in the ocean if they don't move the,
And how many Antarctic stations have you visited now?
So I have seen Dumont d'Urville station, the French one, Concordia station, the French and Italian station, and the Casey station, the Australian one.
Wow. Okay.
I did 10 days in Casey station.
So you saw these stations that gave you more ideas and things you could make better.
Yeah, of course.
But you are now doing your PhD in Strasbourg as well?
In Strasbourg, yes.
Wow. And where's this all going?
It's going amazing.
What's your dream? Where do you want?
I really want to help the architect or the Polar Institute to think about how can you build in a polar environment with the less impact. This is the main goal. Because
the less environmental impact is possible.
Yes, the less environmental impact. Because for now there is more than 80 stations in the Antarctic.
Okay.
And more than 33 of these stations are open all the year. And when you think about that, more than 70 stations are built on the land, so on the coast of the Antarctic. And this is 100% of the territory of the animals and flora and fauna.
Exactly.
So there is Of course, there is a conflict between human and the environmental system of Antarctica.
Which is what happens pretty much everywhere humans
Everywhere,
go.
of course. So the idea is to think about what about the future of the polar station?
Right on.
Is it possible to build less, to build something more ecological? Because nowadays it's difficult to have no emission, no carbon emission, for example.
There is one.
There is
isn't
one, right? The Belgian
station.
Princess.
Because most of these bases, same in the Arctic, and communities in the Arctic rely on diesel power.
Yeah.
So they're burning
diesel.
fuel,
A lot.
fossil fuel. And in a place like Antarctica, that's crazy just to get it there.
Yeah.
To start with.
I saw things there. I was very upset. Very upset. For example, all the dark water at Concordia, they put it in the ice.
Into the ice. Oh my god.
From 25 years.
Jeez.
25 years of dark water in the ice. It's something, because it was very, it took a lot of energy to bring back
Sure.
the dark water.
Yeah.
And it's the same for metal, for all the dishes. There are a lot of, they call it the village, and it's a lot of container. And 25 container full of dishes.
Containers.
Containers full of dishes. 25 container full of, and they are for, I think they started 5 years ago to bring back the dishes.
Okay.
But it took a lot of energy, and I don't know, nowadays I don't know if we can do something about that.
Well,
if
you're
it's
going to
too
change.
late.
Can you change that in the future?
Yeah, I suppose we can change that. I suppose we can change that, but not in the architectural way, but by the way of thinking how to do the scientific program in the Antarctic. Because now we are always bringing a lot of people in Antarctica, more than 4,000 people a year in the continent.
For the scientific basis.
For scientific and
Because there's
technician.
many more tourists that are going.
No, tourists, many more. There, in 2019, there were 72,000 tourists in the Antarctic.
When I first went to Antarctica, which was in 1994, I think we were just over 12,000 on an annual basis to a continent that's bigger than the United States and Mexico combined. It's a big place. But now they're well over 200,000 tourists per year, and it's still going up.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, and many ships. But the work, so you really want to make these stations more environmentally friendly, sustainable. There's there's renewable energy you're probably looking at. And if you can make that work in Antarctica, I guess that's transferable all over the world.
The most interesting thing is that all the things that we can do in Antarctica will be developed for our society. Because we are in a hostile environment in Antarctica, and our environment will be hostile one day if we don't change. So we will have to adapt the architecture, and then we will have to adapt how do we produce energy, and then when we have to adapt the size of the buildings, the size of the apartments. So everything will have to adapt if we don't change.
Yes, we know we do need to change, don't we, in so many respects. And what you're doing is a great part of that, Justin. We'll have to get you up to the Canadian High Arctic Research Station.
Oh,
have you heard about that?
Yeah, I heard, yeah.
Because it's quite new, and I'd love to know what you think of. Did they do a good job?
I saw the pictures of the building. I think it's quite great. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
I have to see the inside to think about how the space is. If it's I always says that architecture can help people to adapt to the environment. And for the Arctic, I think it can be an example of how to adapt architecture to help people.
Absolutely. Let's make a plan to get you up there sometime. We
would
work
love it.
closely with the Polar Knowledge Canada group that manages the High Arctic Research Station up there. So what are next steps then for you, Justin?
I think one of the most important next step is to do more intervention in schools, to share the experience.
Like you did today. You just
like I
spoke
did
to
today.
several hundred
Yes.
students.
I did some for the University of Strasbourg. I did some intervention, but it was not, I don't think, and I don't know if it it will have some impact. So if I can do more, if I can share more of this experiment, I think that it can have an impact of the people, because they will choose, they are on the way to choose their future
Their
and
careers.
to choose their careers. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you can help to show them that there is something to do, maybe it can help. Yeah.
You've got the SOI spirit, Justin.
Yeah,
I
of
love
course.
it. And you're spreading it.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of everything that you're doing.
I just have to say thank you to SOI, because without SOI, I think I will not have chosen this kind of professional career.
I'm glad you did, because we need the
Thanks.
work that you're doing. But you do it with such passion, and it's clear that you love what you're doing and you care about what you're doing. That came across today when you presented to all the students here.
Oh, thanks.
And you mentioned too, besides being a student still, a student on ice,
Yeah.
you are on some committees now for Antarctic topics. And so you're going to be a leader in this space pretty soon.
Oh, I would love to be part of the research community for the polar environment in France. But if it's somewhere else, I will, and if I have the opportunity to do this, I will do this. I want to be part of something. More than sharing something, I want to do something. This is why I'm doing this PhD. It will put some question, very important question, about our society and about the vision of our society of the Antarctic life. So the main idea is really to be part of something, and maybe to bring peoples that do the research in Antarctica into this kind of mentality.
Justin, one last question
Okay.
for you. And it's one I've been asking a lot of people these days, especially on the podcast here. But what brings you hope? What's inspiring you these days? And what are you hopeful for?
And that's a great question. I think that's the people I met years after years. There is always one person that can impact me and that will let me think about there is something to do and I'm not alone. This is that. Fred Roots told us something. Fred Roots.
Fred seems to pop up in this podcast every time.
Really?
Yeah.
Fred Woods told us that people always told us, you are the next generation and you have to do something. But it's false. We are the generation of today, so we have to do something now. This is what he told us when we were on the SOI expedition. And this sentence always keeps in my head. And the fact that every year, every committee, every conferences I am meeting a lot of people that they really want to fight to do something better. It makes me feel that I'm not alone. With other people, we can do something. Yeah.
That's a great message.
Thanks.
And Fred also loved the many poems, but one was called Shoot the Works, which essentially means sometimes you just have to go for it.
Yeah.
And we need that kind of mentality right now because there's no time to waste.
Yeah.
Justin, thanks so much for coming on the Greatest Classroom podcast. Any final words before we wrap up?
Take every opportunity that can lead you to something more important.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
To be continued, Justin. We'll be
Yeah.
in touch and I can't wait to see what's next for you.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, mon ami.
Merci.
And thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks to the wonderful Sarah Harmer for our theme song, Lancaster Sound. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a review and rating where you listen. And share a link of this episode with family and friends. It's the best way to make sure these conversations reach as many people as possible. And please give us a follow on social media. To learn more about Students on Ice, go to studentsonice.com or soifoundation.org. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, I'm Geoff Green.
Feel this moment, face into this morning.